Hi, my name is Subbiah Sundaram. I run products for HYCU, and I'm here to talk about HYCU Protégé, our multi-cloud data protection platform. First off, about us, we as a company, right? We are actually funded by some of the industry's well-known organizations like Bain Capital, Acru, and we have strategic investors like Cisco and Atlassian. When we talk about multi-cloud, we truly support all of the major public clouds. We actually work with people like Azure, AWS, Google, you name all the big ones, as well as a lot of the larger data center folks like Nutanix and VMware, and so on. So it's been a fantastic ride for the organization. To give you a quick rundown on what we might mean by that, I'll give you a couple of more data points. First is that our focus is to work with some of the largest data protection vendors. We are based in Boston. Our company is based in Boston. A big thing about us is that we have engineering talent, which is phenomenal. A lot of our folks have worked on tremendous number of data protection software that has taught us what to do right and how to actually fix some of the mistakes of the past. That is something we have learned quite a bit from that. The third thing, which I probably will mention about us as a company, is that the big differentiator for us, one of our core principles which we started the organization, was that we wanted to build purpose-built solutions for every cloud, every platform we choose. This is an expensive engineering operation, but that's how we chose to do it, because we want to make sure it's simple and native. That's something we did. That's a unique differentiator for us. The thing is that it's all about us as a company. The big thing what customers will always like to find out is that, is this really being used by people? Like, we are very happy to report where we are right now is we have over 3,200 customers and are sold in over 75 countries, which is phenomenal. That's a quick thing about us as a company, just to give you a little more about what do we build. What HYCU Protégé is a multi-cloud data protection platform. It actually supports all of your major clouds. And for each one of the clouds, we have purpose-built a solution. As Simon Taylor, our CEO, lovingly likes to call it, it's like the piano with all the piano keys. Each of the piano keys, which is in this particular case a platform, and the purpose-built solution is there. But you get the beautiful full value if you bring all the piano keys together, and that's part of the HYCU Protégé. That's what we have actually done. We have built the best piano keys and brought it together and built the best multi-cloud data protection platform. If people ask us, what is it? Practically tell us a little more about how do we do it? The value, what the customer sees is a single pane of glass to manage all their data protection, all of their multi-cloud offerings, data protections, right? The key thing is that for each of the clouds, we have actually, as I said, natively built it, but bring all of them into a single pane of glass for the customer. The whole idea when we talk about our console, our unified console, we don't talk in terms of speeds and feeds. That's there too if you want, but the primary thing we focus on is that what data the customer cares about. What does the business care about? It's their applications, it's the containers, it's the shares, it's the VMs. That's what the customers care about, their business cares about. So we start with that and then bring it down. So if you ask about what are the things we talk about, right? The first thing is that everything we do is around applications, application consistency, application awareness. That's what we do. Be it a backup, be it migration, be it DR, across the board, all of them are focused on applications. I'll talk a little more in the follow-on slides regarding why we explicitly call this out, but it's an important aspect there. Because a lot of people traditionally think in terms of VMs, and that's good, but that's not enough, is what we believe. The second thing, which I probably will say, is that everything we do, I told you about our consolidated management, we bring all of the information together, be it within a single platform or across platform, we actually bring them together. And one of the other things I should have probably mentioned, the application, is that when we talk about applications, we have a patent, and one of the patents is that we automatically discover what applications the customer is actually running within their virtual machines and their containers. The customer does not have to do anything special except give us credentials, and then we will auto-discover for them. And that's a big benefit. I'll talk a little bit as a follow-on regarding how it comes along as value to customers. The last thing, again, emphasizing one of the things I mentioned earlier, is that it is truly purpose-built for every platform. And this is an engineering-heavy operation, but this is a conscious choice we made, and that's something we have done. So we build each of the platforms, bring them together as part of a HYCU Protégé solution. That's what we do.
Just to clarify what you just said, because I think I just got very excited. Are you saying that you have consistent app backups and application dependency mapping? You said that you can tell what's on a VM, and to me that means application dependency mapping, which is huge for cloud migrations. Is that what you just said?
Absolutely, it's a great point to what you mentioned there, Chris. Yes. So what we do is that as soon as the customer sees, as soon as by default, as our starters, we automatically discover all the virtual machines and containers and so on. And not just that, we go one level deeper, to your point, discover the applications running inside them to help the mapping there.
Are you saying from an application perspective that I am not going to leverage this to back up a VM? Or I can back up a VM, but I can also really focus on the application if I want to?
That's a great point. Yes, so we do offer you both choices.
Okay.
Just do the application part, or you can say, I want to focus on the VM part. Absolutely, yes. So quick thing here is that what do we as a company do is something people ask us. To start with, we help customers protect their data on-prem, which is still 70% of the workloads are on-prem. You got to make sure you get the best-in-class solution there. For VMware, Nutanix, the physical machines, all of that stuff, we actually provide the best-in-class integration for them. That's something we do. So protect the data on-prem, both back it up to on-prem as well as back it up to the public cloud. That is something we do. The second thing is that we provide an instant lift and shift capability, because one of the things we hear from customers is that 95% of them have some data migration project going on within their organization between on-prem and the public cloud. Again, it's all application consistent, like the way we talked about. The third thing comes down to is that for each of the public clouds, we provide cloud native data protection. It's a true service on each of the public clouds we actually offer for customers. And the last thing is that this is at a macro level. If you look at it, top of mind for all customers is ransomware. And we provide a variety of things to protect customers against ransomware. That is something which we actually also offer. Yeah, this is at a macro level. People ask, what does HYCU do with our data protection?
Subbiah, I want to dig into that ransomware claim a little bit, because that's a bold claim, right? Ransomware proof. Whoa, that's crazy. So when you use words like air-gapped and immutable, can you expand on what you mean by air-gapped and immutable? Because I've seen those terms used loosely in the past.
Got it. So I really like the way you picked on that particular one. There are two parts to ransomware, as you guys know. I mean, the way we think of it is that, as people also call three things, right? There's a prevention. Yeah, that's the best thing you can do. Detection, and then remediation. The way we think of we as backup vendors, we are the last line of defense for customers. And our goal is to be able to get the data, recover the data when they need it, where they need it. And that's our primary goal, right? We do help them with detection, but there are lots of players doing that particular one, and we also do, but our best value is in the remediation part of it. The key things which we end up doing for customers is that we protect the data, keep the data safe, number one, in completely isolated data environments. That's the first step, right? Keep the data isolated. That's meaning outside of the production infrastructure. That way it's not touched. That's number one. For example, in the clouds, you actually have your, let's say, different projects running and different people with access permissions on the production side. The backup data, we keep it in a completely independent project. That's the first step. The second step is that in the on-prem world, we try to make sure the networks are completely isolated. And if your network is open to somebody else seeing it, we automatically flag it saying, hey, this is not something doesn't seem right. That is something we automatically do for customers. The second thing is that we actually obviously support the worm targets for customers. That's a second one. The third thing goes down to saying we strongly encourage customers, and we do detect in the product that is the data accessible only to the backup software or is it to somebody else? Because it tried to, again, eliminate the number of possibilities to people which can come through. that's there. And the last thing I'll tell you is that when in the public clouds, we use the native identity management services, which are the public cloud vendors spend hundreds of people actually developing it. And that is something we automatically do, right? Protect them for them. So that's something we do. So those are some of the things. I can go on this ransomware stuff, but those are some things we do now.
Okay. On the immutable side, are you taking advantage of just the immutability that's available in like the public cloud storage, or do you have your own storage format you're applying that immutable to?
Oh, that's a great point. So there are two things. We absolutely leverage the public cloud worm capabilities. That's something we do, right? In addition to that, we also support, there are other air gap storages customers actually have choice to. We end up supporting that. We support all possibilities for customers. That's there. And the last one I'll mention is that even the formats we write and the way we end up doing some of the blocks, that actually really helps. So even if somebody randomly picks up some of the stuff, it looks like a set of blocks which they cannot make sense out of. That's one of the way we keep it safe for customers.
But then could you detect if there was someone tampering? Are there signatures on the backups or on the blocks?
Yes. That is something we actually do. If something is off, you can actually check to say, hey, this is what the original backup is supposed to be. Something got changed. That is absolutely we can detect. So, cool. So that's a quick rundown on what we do. So let me actually do a quick thing on, give you a quick summary about what do we do as HYCU Protégé. When we talk about, first thing is the backup and recovery, just to give you guys a broader context. For each of the cloud, we have actually built it. I know I'm also talking about AWS today. But we'll actually talk a lot more about it. But we do support all the multiple clouds in the interest of space. It's called as Google and Azure. We actually, for every cloud, because we purpose built it, we try to use the same terminology, same look and feel, same. Because some people say, so what's the big deal about using the same terminology? As you guys know, the learning curve goes dramatically lower, right? For example, there are times I'll tell you, when we do a demo to a customer during the demo, you'll say, oh, can you go to the top left? I said, why do you want to go to the top left? Oh, I want to see all the projects. Why is that? Because that's how they are used to seeing projects in different clouds or resource group in different places, right? That we try to map it to the similarity to the cloud and the same terminology. That way they look and it's easier for them to learn. The third thing which is there is around simplicity. It's hard to sometimes explain people a simplicity because they say, oh, didn't the legacy vendor who was built it 25, 30 years ago, don't they also claim simplicity? Now, if they are simple, what do I call myself? It's like, okay, but that's a little hard to judge. So simplicity is a nebulous thing. The best examples and for me is that when customers tell us, right? I remember there's a customer who, after a lot of conversations, I mean, he started using a solution 2 months later. Here we have a conversation with him and he says, you know, Subbiah, I got to tell you one thing. He said, what's it? After turning on a service, I played with it, all that stuff. 2 minutes later, I don't know what else to do. I said, what do you mean? Because there's nothing more to do. It's all, once I said it, it's all done. That's the simplicity, right? And in my mind, I'm truly happy because that's the way we want it. We want it to be set and forget, and that's the model we have. The thing is that we do provide a lot of flexibility for the customers. We 100% make it agentless. I talked about application awareness. The way we end up doing is that as soon as we discover the virtual machines and containers, with the credentials, we go and inspect what's running inside the, not just running, what's running inside the virtual machines and containers, right? That is something we detect the applications. And essentially, it's a fingerprinting technology. It's patented for us, and that is something we use. The good thing is that people say, so what's the benefit of application? Are you trying to become an application discovery vendor? No, that's not our primary objective. We are trying to use this technology so to make sure that all of the data the customer has is protected and protected in a consistent fashion. Because we discover the application, when it comes to backup, the customer does not have to do anything special, be it a virtual machine, be it a container, be it an application. Exactly, backup is one simple step. Select the VM, app, container, any of that stuff and say, back it up. And it'll say what policy, and that's basically it. The system should take care of everything else. That's what we truly mean by simplicity. Because I'll tell you another analogy, the reason I think we are sometimes too simple is that customers, after setting our thing, they say, oh, where do I go and manage all the jobs and retention and schedules? And I said, like, why do you have to manage it? The system is supposed to manage, right? That's the idea about simplicity, and that's something we do.
making me laugh because I used to work with backup admins and they would be very particular about checking the jobs every day and digging through text files, and they wanted everything like cron to them and stuff. And it was wild. So they would feel very adrift in what you're talking about, where it's like, what do I do with my whole day? Two things I see on the slide that jump out at me. One, that it's application aware. So somehow you're detecting the application and backing it up, but also it's agentless. And every product I've ever seen that does the application-based backup has some sort of agent or something running on like the virtual machine to get that capture. So how do you have the agentless, but also protect the application as well?
That's a great point. So one of the things which we have actually done is that wherever possible, we try to use the native APIs. That's a big part for us. That way we don't have to run an agent in the system. That's number one. The second thing is there are some cases where we have to actually get SSH access or a WinRM access, things like that to the infrastructure, right? So just all we need is that just at the time for quiescing the application, we need it. That's number one. The reason we call it impact-free is that we quiesce the application. We leverage the power of the platforms, be it Google, Azure, AWS, Nutanix, VMware. We leverage the snapshot technology in all of those cases. We quiesce the application, take the snapshot, let the application go. So for a very short period of time, the application is in a consistency mode, and then we take it and then we let it go. So it's truly the backup happens completely off the production server, never touches that. That's one of the reasons we don't need an agent sitting there and doing some work for us. That's something we do. And the last thing I'll mention here is that everything we do is self-service and multi-tenancy. I say we are lucky we are late. I say, people, what do you mean? Because we started the software only like 5 years ago. And because right from the get-go, we knew we had to build it for multi-tenant infrastructure. And that's what we have been lucky to build it. That's been a big benefit for customers. This also helps out in self-service mode when you think in terms of large enterprises.
You know, you mentioned, can you go back to, what is it, one right there? So when I think about what you said, so you said purpose built for each cloud, and hopefully this question makes sense. Purpose built for each cloud, and then you talk about terminology. So when we think about consistent terminology, in my head, I'm thinking agnostic to the cloud, right? I'm thinking about I'm on a level playing field. What it means in my terms could apply anywhere, regardless of what their terminology is on the back end. Mm-hmm. Is that what we're saying here? Or is it more to the fact that the terminology is specific to the actual cloud that you're in? And it's very, like I said, it's just specific for AWS, Azure. So I think you know where I'm going there.
Absolutely, Larry. So it's a great question. So what we end up doing is that we've taken the more complicated route, Larry. The ideal thing would have been a one standardized terminology applies across all the cloud. That would have been a cleaner, easier thing from an engineering perspective. I'll tell you, my engineers hate me for doing this thing. But the other side, we said, no, I said, look, for every cloud, it has to be to the native terminal. The reason people ask us, so why the hell did you guys go to the complex route? Because when somebody is managing AWS, they are doing AWS, right? That's all they think in terms of. They want in the context of that platform. That's how we have done for every platform. We have chosen the terminology native to that.
Okay, that makes sense. Like I said, to me, it makes sense going the other route. But I just wanted to ask that because I could obviously see where that can get confusing for sure. Not that it matters, but hey.
So I have a question about the cloud nativeness of the solution, because you specifically call it out. Are you saying that, for example, if I have an application that's running against an RDS database, it's a database as a service as opposed to running in my container or my own VM, that you can somehow use the snapshots coming from RDS to read the backup?
Yep. That's exactly what we do. For each of the clouds, for example, when we talk about cloud native, some of the things to look at is that we leverage whichever, be it containers, be it applications, be it any of the services, we try to use the native services of the platform, which is we use the native APIs, we use their snapshot technology, which is what they provide. We use their replication technology if they actually have one. We use their native identity management, which they have. Things like that. And for example, storage, we try to use their native storage service. Across the board, we try to make sure we leverage everything built in the platform, number one. Number two, we try to make it elastically scalable because it has to be a platform scale along with the platform. Those are some of the things we talk about native and capabilities we use. The other two other thing I want to mention is that one is that we talk about backup and recovery, be it on any one of the clouds, right? Native for that. The other thing, what customers actually started telling us was, guys, we love the simplicity you do for backup, but you know, most of us are on the journey to the cloud. Can you simplify it? That was a question we got all the time. That's why we built it truly. This was actually built because of customers' need. So we made the same one-click backup. We made a one-click migration for customers. People think, are you just trying to really market it, or really it's a truth? I wish I had the time to actually do a quick demo for you. But the thing is that we can absolutely demonstrate why it's a one-click migration from on-prem to the public cloud or the other way around. And all of this is done application consistent. Because as I said earlier, we discover the application, we know what to do. And when you want to migrate or shift the data, we know exactly what to do to make it consistent, get the data there. And when you're there, obviously we take care of all the conversions, we take care of bringing the right data, and we take care of automatically, if you want to resize it or redo networking, we can actually apply all of that for the customer. That is something we have simplified it. And this is one of the reasons a lot of the service providers and a lot of the other large customers, when they have the migration project, leverage us. Again, our goal is not to become the migration company. We did this because customers asked us to do this particular one. So when we did the from on-prem to public cloud migration, customers said, hey, can you also help me bring it down? Because there are times I'm moving around the workloads, or can I use it as a public cloud as a DR target? That is something we have actually done for customers. So it's not just one way, you can actually make it a two-way journey for customers. The key thing we do here, again, the big differentiator for us is that we try to make it as cost efficient for the customer as possible. When you actually keep the data first on the public cloud, just because for DR purpose, right? You're not running it every day. We could have run a classic dedupe. We didn't want to run the classic dedupe stuff because deduplication is a fantastic thing in on-prem world because there are a lot of constraints there. But in the public cloud, storage is cheap, but compute and memory are expensive. And deduplication requires lots of compute and memory. So we had to keep it very efficient. And that's one of the reasons we tried to actually build our own cloud, what we call cloud native dedupe. It's called cloud dedupe is what we call it. It's a different technology which doesn't require compute to be there 24/7. That's one of the reasons, that's the beauty of our solution. And that's why for the customer, what is the net benefit for the customer? It's the cost. It's a significant reduction in the cost they got to pay because they pay only for the storage. They use compute and memory only when they are in the test mode. That's a big difference when they do the migration in DR. So that's across both the on-prem and the public cloud for customers.
When you talk about migration, are you talking specifically at the application layer, or am I able to do VM migration and application? Because I mean, it's two different things, right? So
we do VM level as well as application level.
Okay, I assume so.
I'll tell you, there are customers who do just some storage level migration too. That's also, we can do that. So that's probably my last slide in this session here. The key things I want to talk about, people say, what's special about you guys? As we talked about purpose-built quite a bit there. That's something, this is one of the reasons I tell our teams, please get the customer to see it. Sometimes seeing is believing it. That's the purpose-built. They will appreciate it. That's number one. One is the visual aspect of it. The second one, I'll tell customers, learning is simple. That's the second thing. Third thing is the efficiency of using their platform, because you decided to go on Azure, AWS, GCP, Nutanix, VMware, all of these platforms you chose for a particular reason. You want to take the maximum advantage of it. That is something we have actually done. That's the purpose-built nature. The second thing is the simplicity aspect. This is hard to do it. I think customers again should see it. One-click backup, one-click migration. It's truly as simple. They can do it. Any other public clouds, it's just a service, turn it on, truly elastic. There's no sizing or anything involved. Use it as much as you want. If you ever decide to shrink down, no problem, no change in that one. When you talk about elasticity, that's because a lot of people think on-prem and public cloud is exactly the same software. No, it's because it's purpose-built. We try to build natively on the public cloud. And it's truly like a public cloud service. You can start with 1 VM, go to 10,000 VMs, go to next day 500, and third day 20,000. Not a problem. You can decide to go to any region. Our system is smart enough to go to spin up at the right region to do the right thing. That's there. The last thing I'll mention there is around enterprise readiness. All of these people say, but are you enterprise software? Guys, we support some of the largest customers and a lot of the three-letter agencies and a lot of federal governments. That should give customers a lot of confidence. But more than all the technology, I'll tell you the one which makes me the most happy is the Net Promoter Score. You see the 91 there? That's our Net Promoter Score. We are very proud of it. I'll tell you, this is not easy to get to 91. It took a lot of effort on our part, and we are very proud of doing that thing, and we have a lot more work to be done on that, to continue on that. that's a quick rundown on Protégé, and people who want to try it out, just it's very simple. Go to tryhaiku.com and they can check it out.